Hey, what's up guys and gals? It's the Tyrant here. Happy Saturday to you and welcome back to my weekly Q&A session where you guys ask the questions and I give you the answers. It's my favorite time of the week because I get to sit down with you guys, my community, and you're my best audience. I mean, I love everybody on my site, but you guys are just so great. And thank you for being here. You know, it's been an exciting week. I've been telling you that another awesome Halo tuber named Actman and I were going to have a debate regarding Halo 3 Anniversary, whether or not it should happen. The debate has already happened. Actman put together a very well done video, and you should definitely check it out. It's excellent work, great job by him, and you can see us fight it out and see who wins. And I'll put a link in the description below, but it is out now. It's about half an hour long. It is well worth the watch. And that's really all I've got for you this week in terms of any news or updates. So we're going to go ahead and dive right into this. Now, for those of you who don't know how this works, all you have to do to get a question submitted is to put it in the comment section below. Of course, as you know, I do get a lot of comments. So if I do miss yours, you know, don't panic. Just go ahead and copy and paste it into next week's video. Or honestly, the most direct way to do it, if you really want to bug me about it, hit me up on Twitter at MythicTyrant. In fact, our first 3 questions tonight are from Twitter. That's a great way to do it. And a lot of the action happens there too. So if you aren't following me now, that's definitely something you should do. And I'd love to have you there. So we're going to go ahead and dive right into this. Our first question of the day comes from Clammier Toast 8 as opposed to Cinnamon Toast Crunch. And Clammier asks, could we see mendicant bias play a role in the Halo Wars 2 expansion, and if so, how could that affect the Ark and the Flood? To be honest with you, we've played with the theory of mendicant bias returning for a while now. This has been a theory I've had for, I guess since last year, and I was kind of on the fence about it simply because I didn't know how Cortana was being operated. Some people say it's the logic plague. Others say that she's being controlled by the didact, which was composed in Halo Escalation. So honestly, at this point, mendicant bias seems like something that we're really not going to see, or even if we do, he's not going to play, or it's not going to play a major role. Maybe it's something we'll get in a terminal or in passing, but honestly, I don't think it's going to be a major factor in future Halo games. So I hope that answers your question, Clammier, and thanks for stopping by, bro. Our next question comes from my man, Gareth. Again, this is from Twitter. Always good to hear from you, bro. And Gareth asks, how would you like Halo 6 to finish, presuming it's the end Chief story? So I've said this in past videos. I would like to see Master Chief's story come to a close. I feel like he should have an honorable death. I know that there are several people out there who are going to complain and yell and scream, but I just can't see someone like the Master Chief, the badass that he is, this guy who has been trained since he was 6 years old, going into retirement. I mean, can you picture Master Chief sitting there with his hand down his pants with a beer in his hand watching Sunday Night Football? I can't see that. Even becoming a military officer just doesn't seem like his thing. If you've read some of the books, and I know I usually shun that in other videos, but that's only in terms of lore. But if you've read the books, it describes how the Chief feels when he's aboard a ship and he's not in combat. He can't do anything. He's not in control, and he hates it. So I can't see the Master Chief story arc ending with him being happy by being retired. So I would like to see, something happen to Chief, whether he self-sacrifices himself to save Cortana or gets composed or something along the lines. Maybe he's not necessarily gone, but completely in the sense that, yeah, he's been composed, but he's been taken out of combat, so to speak. So maybe he exists somewhere out there, but is no longer going to be included in the Halo games, or at least nothing going past Halo 6 chronologically. So that's what I'm hoping for. I hope that answers your question, Gareth, and thanks for stopping by. Our next question comes from Pat CANNY. I feel so bad for Pat, and I got to say this, I've missed his questions for the last few weeks, and I do apologize, Pat. So I definitely went out of my way to make sure that I got you this time. He also hit me up on Twitter. And Pat asked, I'd love to know if you could take 10-ish levels from all the Halo games and make your own game, what would they be? You're going to be even more disappointed with this answer. So I don't think that's something I can answer in one question. I was actually planning on doing a video at some point that listed my favorite missions. I'm not sure what number I would use or anything like that. Similar to when I did the top 25 hardest Halo missions of all time, but maybe go a different route with my favorite missions. I can't really see any of them being stringed together in terms of a game. I usually have at least 1 or 2 favorite missions per Halo game, with maybe the exception of Halo 5. Well, no, that's not true. I do enjoy the Battle of Sinayan mission, but aside from that, I don't think I could string them together to make one game. Interestingly enough, I think you can actually do something similar to that in the Master Chief Collection, which I know a lot of you hate, so I won't talk about that anymore. But to answer your question, Pat, hopefully I can do an extended video on that in the near future, but it's a good one to bring up, and I appreciate the inspiration. Thank you. Our next question comes from Dale Mixon. I think he's a Walking Dead character. And Dale Mixon asks, do you think Chief and Cortana should have a romantic relationship if they don't die in Halo 6? This is some twisted Twilight fan fiction here. No. Plain and simple. I kind of like... It reminds me of the X-Files and Mulder and Scully, and how for 7 years, they were just partners. They were great friends. They always relied on each other. They trusted each other. And sometimes, each other, that was the only person that they could, the other person could, man, I just completely twisted that out. There were times when one could only trust the other, and they just had that bond, but no romantic relationship, and then they screwed it up towards the end of the series. Thanks a lot, Chris Carter. But I want them to keep it that way for Chief and Cortana, just to have a strong bond without them crossing that line. Not every story, whether it be game, movie, or TV show, needs to have a love story in it. Damn it, ban Twilight. That's all I can say. But I hope that answers your question, Dale, and thanks for asking, man. I appreciate it. Our next question comes from Patrick Thomas. Always good to hear from you, Pat. And Patrick asks, why does the Didact have force powers? A lot of people have wondered this, and I'm pretty sure I have the actual answer here, so I'm going to give to you the best I know in terms of the lore. He doesn't have force powers. What you see is gravity manipulation abilities that he uses through his armor. It's actually his armor that allows him to do these things. So he doesn't have force powers. It kind of seems like he does in Halo 4, and maybe the way they execute it isn't quite right, but if you do look closely enough, you can actually see the waves, what looks like heat waves almost, or gravity waves or whatever, when he's reaching out his hand and connecting with the Chief and bringing him forward. So there's definitely an energy force there, but it's not the force, it's just gravity manipulation. But that's an excellent question, and I'm sure a lot of people have been curious about that too, so thanks for bringing that up, Patrick. I appreciate it. Our next question comes from MUDKIP454, and MUDKIP asks, why do you think 343 added the squad gameplay? Nobody asked for it or wanted it, and it's nothing but an obstacle for fun gameplay. I actually disagree with you that one, MUDKIP. I personally, I may be the odd man out here, but I like the squad system. I like the fact that I always have 3 other people with me. I never feel alone. It gives you an interesting way to take on different battle scenarios. I know there are a lot of people out there who believe that, being able to sometimes fight with other people and other times be alone is a better game, and if that's what they want, more power to them. But what drew me into Halo originally was the fact that for the first time I actually had numerous allies I could fight with, going back to Halo Combat Evolved and the Marines there. What I think that they were planning to do with the squad system here is allowing the possibility for larger battles without it being tilted so far against the player in terms of overall fairness, because you see a ton of enemies in Halo 5 and it's pretty tough to muddle through them if you don't have backup of some sort, and having them there to pick up different weapons, to target different enemies, to move to different locations, and especially revive you, I think allows for more chaotic combat in the series. But if you look at other games like Gears of War, this seems to be a dynamic that Microsoft is moving towards. And I think that's, personally, I'm for it. I think it increases the gameplay value, in my opinion. There's tons of games out there like Doom where you can fight by yourself. Personally, I would rather them stick with this for now. Maybe it's not perfect. It definitely needs some tweaks. But I think if they do it right, they can make it perfect in Halo 6. So I hope that helps you out, MUDKIP, and I certainly appreciate it. Our next question comes from Nemo Dramatic. XT. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I'm sorry if I'm not. And Nemo asks, hey, Tyrant, do you think you could answer if Master Chief could secretly be Noble 6? I'm glad you brought this up because the answer is no. Not just for the obvious reasons like his voice isn't the same and so forth, but here's the thing. Mike, a couple of weeks ago we had another question asked regarding if Noble 6 was still alive or not, or did he actually die on Reach? I said I believed no, even though there was a theory out there that thought they could prove otherwise or thought it could prove otherwise. But it came out this week, straight from the horse's mouth from Jeff Easterling over there at 343 Industries. He's the one of the community guys over there. And he flat out said, no, Noble 6 is dead. End of story. He is not coming back. He died on Reach. He just said that Noble 6 is dead. But in short, no, there's no more Noble 6. He's not secretly Master Chief. And you're not going to see him in Halo 6 either. So I hope that doesn't burst your bubble, Nemo, but at least that answers your question. So thank you again. I appreciate it. Our next question comes from Blackwing799. Always good to hear from you, Blackwing. And Blackwing asks, would 343 and Microsoft or Xbox be able to survive if Halo ever went under? So this is a multi-part question. Well, not really, but I'll divide this up. So Microsoft and Xbox, absolutely, they'd survive. I mean, there's tons of good content out there. And even though Halo may be the flagship of the franchise, they're coming out with new content that's able to, I think, step up and serve as something. Basically, they're coming out with games that people would still buy a console for, which is what Halo was. It was a console seller. And they're coming out with other titles as well, Gears of War being one of them. I'm not sure if Anthem is exclusive to Xbox or if it's cross-platform, but they're doing work on that. I don't think they want to rely on Halo forever because, yes, I'm sure one day Halo isn't going to be a thing anymore, or at least not as popular as it is now. Now, to answer the first part of your question about 343, yes, the organization would most likely dissolve. That is their sole purpose, is to create Halo content. And so if Halo dies out as a fad or I'm trying to think of the word here, but if it dies out as a trend, there we go, a fad or a trend, they're not going to make any money. Microsoft's not going to want to fund them anymore, and they're not going to have anything left to do. And the same thing happened, I believe, with Ensemble Studios when Halo Wars flopped. There was more to it than that, but when Halo Wars didn't do as well as they'd hoped, it got a lot of negative feedback from core Halo fans, and the organization dissolved shortly after Halo Wars was released. 343, let me back up again. So Microsoft would survive. They have a ton of stuff out there that far exceeds Halo. Xbox would survive because they're coming out with newer and newer content every year. 343 would not. So hope that answers your question, Blackwing, and thank you, man. Our next question comes from Jordan. He's a newcomer to the site, so everyone welcome Jordan. And Jordan asks, I'm new to the channel. My question is, will we ever see another Reach game? Probably not. What you saw in Halo Reach is the biggest conflict, as far as I know, that occurred on the world. And we basically saw it from the beginning to the point where the planet was destroyed. There isn't going to be a Reach sequel. I know people would like to see maybe a different perspective of the war, but to me, that story has been played out. I think that when Bungie did that and sort of contradicted what they'd already come out with in the books, or what Eric Nyland did, it threw a lot of people off. Leave the lore alone, I say. I think Reach is fine, and we have a ton of other battles and scenarios out there that exist in the Halo universe that can be explored instead. So I hope that answers your question, Jordan, and welcome to the site, my friend. Good to have you here. Our next question comes from Ghost Napa. Okay, I had to look at that for a second there. For a second, I thought that said NASCAR. So Ghost asks, do you think Halo 5 would have done better if they removed some pointless parts of the story and added more character development? There's a lot of things they could have done to make Halo 5 better. Believe me, I don't think the character development would have helped, but so much. We see in games like Reach where there wasn't a lot of character development because the focus was mostly on Reach itself, not the characters. But I agree with you, one of the biggest flaws that we faced with Halo 5 was there were so many characters introduced and they were all meaningless to us. They did a very poor job fleshing them out. I'm not saying that every game has to do that, but it was just because of the type of universe that we're in, because it's Halo and it has a precedence to it, that really I think that really screwed things up for 343. It didn't answer a lot of questions like how did blue team get there, and why is fire team Osiris so important all of a sudden? Who is Agent Locke or Spartan Locke or whatever you want to call him? So I think that definitely didn't help, especially since the game was more tilted towards them than it was the chief. In short, yes, character development would have helped, but it would not have solved the problems. So I hope that answers your question, Ghost, and sorry for calling you NASCAR. It's my eyes. So our next question comes from King MOREAU. I'm sorry. Man, I am not good with names today, and I do apologize. And King asks, what do you think should happen to Cortana in Halo 6? As I've said in previous installments, I would really prefer it if Cortana was not the bad guy, that she was actually being controlled by Didact. People have brought up before that it could be the Logic Plague, but because the theory dates back all the way to Halo 2 and the Gravemind first entering the picture, that's just too far back. I know a lot of Legacy fans here would think that's cool, but they haven't really updated that part of the story very well. Gravemind hasn't been seen or heard from since Halo 3. I think basing it off of a game that started in 2004, just in this particular sense, people aren't going to pick up on it because it hasn't been followed very well. So personally, I hope it's something like the Didact is secretly controlling her after he got composed. That I think would help bring Halo 4 to a full circle, help bring the whole Reclaimer saga to a full circle. And I think that's probably one of the more interesting things they could do to bring it to a close as well. So that's an interesting thing you brought up. And let me know in the comments below, guys, what you think about your fate of Cortana. Would you like, the Logic Plague to be the issue? Are you willing to take that bet, having to go back and play those games to catch up on everything that happened between Cortana and the Gravemind? Or would you like to see it sort of continue where Halo 4 started, so that you don't have to necessarily cram all that information into your brain? Let me know in the comments below or on Twitter. And our final question of the week comes from POINTATHIM. POINTATHIM, okay, we'll go with that. And POINTATHIM asks, do you believe that 343 will bring back the dual wield mechanic in the next Halo game? This is an awesome question, and it's got a compound answer to it, because personally, I've got a special place in my heart for dual wielding. We only had it for 2 Halo games, and that was for Halo 2 and Halo 3. Halo 3 ODST, they got rid of it because you weren't a Spartan, you were an ODST, and I'm not really sure why they got rid of it in Reach and after that. There are a lot of people out there who say that it's overpowered, it's hard to balance, and I can agree with that to a point if you're talking about multiplayer, but that doesn't apply to campaign. So one thing that I think would be a good compromise would be to reintroduce dual wielding into the campaign so that the player can still experience it, use it against enemy forces, and just cherish that power, but make things more balanced in multiplayer and maybe only have it for custom games, not for matchmaking, not for ranked, not for anything along those lines, not for Warzone, whatever. Only for custom games and only for campaign. I think that's a way that it could work out for both sides. Personally, I don't believe dual wielding was ever really negatively received in large numbers. Some people complained that it was overpowered. Really, it wasn't, because keep in mind that when you were dual wielding, yes, you had stronger guns. I believe in Halo 3, they tweaked it so that it wasn't, the firepower wasn't the equivalent of holding 2 guns. It was more like 1.5. But also keep in mind that you could not throw grenades at the same time. So in my personal opinion, there is a place in the Halo universe for dual wielding. I would be perfectly happy and even encourage them to bring it back for campaign and even custom games, but definitely keep it out of ranked matchmaking. So I hope that answers your question, and I would really like to hear everyone's opinions in the comments below. I know I've already said this about another question. What are your thoughts on dual wielding? Because that brings an end to this week's Q&A, and I want to thank you all for being here, and I want you to let me know in the comments below what your thoughts on dual wielding are. Would you like to see it back at all? And if so, would you like to see it in campaign? Would you like to see it in multiplayer? Would you like to see it in both? or not at all. You can let me know in the comments below. I've said that already. Or hit me up on Twitter at MythicTyrant. A link to my Twitter feed can be found in the description below. And if you like this video, hit that subscribe button for more great video game content every single day right here on MythicTyrant.com. I had a great time with you guys this week. Thank you so much for watching, guys and gals. I'll catch you right back here next time. Have a great weekend. And as always, I'm the Tyrant signing off.